What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Collective Podcast. And if y'all been tuned in, you know that this month has been all about a sales reset to redefine what are we doing? What are we not doing? What should we start? What should we stop? What do we need to retire? What do we need to double down on? And one of the most unsexy things we can talk about is the sales process. What does it look like when you get a lead in the door? If they don't say yes right away, do they just go into obscurity and you just hope and pray that they show back up? Or do you have a set of emails, automations, whatever it is? We're going to dig into this sales process. I'm Kyle Draper, joined by Shane Kidwell. What up, bro?
It actually is sexy when you convert dollars to actions and you look at the actions that you do in your process. And like for me, specifically going through the process of getting somebody into a home, right? Looking at the mortgage process from start to finish. What I know to be true is the average originator reacts. They just react. And if I sat down and said, hey, Bob's doing 3 loans a month, which really means 5 one month, 1.5 the other. He's on the roller coaster. He's working all summer. His vacations are not really what his vacations would be if he worked in a W-2 hourly wage job.
Yep.
And I go, what's your process? He goes, oh man, I get people pre-approved super quick. And I'm like, but like, what's your process? Well, like when they call me and I'm like, okay. And then when you start to break down these things that you do in your business that top producers do that win, it's a totally different conversation. And like a thought process that people just need to be embracing is sprint to jog. Like for me in my business, we always start quick and we slow down based on people's needs. That's a part of that lead process. And what does that look like? And you have like my team knew that when certain things happen, they would do certain things. The email address that people were reaching out to wasn't my email. It was team at, or it was group at. And so like that was going to multiple people. And so I think there's a lot we can dig in on this. Some that are like minor tweaks, right? Some that are a little bit bigger, some that are just like, oh, I never thought of doing that, can really help you make a lot of money and save a lot of time and lower your anxiety level.
Well, and so I think we just walk through it from the beginning, right? So whether it's a cold lead or someone has referred someone to you, what for you, right? We've got Jen Moretti coming in on Wednesday into the collective that is going to lay out her process. And she's so incredibly gifted at all this. But what's beautiful about process is like, you're going to have a process that's different from hers, and she's going to have a process that's different from yours. And it's not that one's better or worse. It's that everybody's a little bit different. And so we're going to dig into Shane Kidwell's process, guys. So buckle up, get your popcorn ready, get some napkins for that butter that you put on that popcorn, and get to work. So I'm a new potential buyer. I've been referred to you. What does that first step look like within Dwell?
Step 1 is actually training people how to refer. So if you're referred to me, that looks like you've either been introduced by a referral partner, and if so, you're emailing my team email, which includes myself, my marketing like my general admin, and my loan partner. Right now, again, if you're on your own, you can still have a team email, right? Like it's because it helps you scale. So I really like to have a distinct email that my referral partners leads are going to. Second component of that is if somebody finds me online, they're going to see that my bio on any social media profile has a short link, like a bit.ly link or a links.co link that drives them to a platform that I control. That's very simple. It'll be who I am, what I've done, what's in it for you, what do you want, whether that's a free tool, a free calculator, and then call to action, schedule a time to connect. And so the goal is that people are scheduling through Calendly. And even if they just email me, my out of office response that was on 7 days a week was, hey, I'm blessed to have a full inbox. And a lot of people copied this. The problem was after they copied it, they never rewrote it. Like, this adjusts over time. But it would in essence say, hey, I'm blessed with a full inbox. Before we get started, here's a few things to remember. If you're brand new, in all bold, click here, schedule a time that fits your schedule. Make sure you pick in person, over the phone, or Zoom. Number 2, in process, like you're already working with myself and the team, email this email for a quicker response. I'm again blessed with a full email inbox, blah, blah, blah. Number 3, if you're a referral partner, schedule time to connect. And it was a different link. Everyone was driven to Calendly and for a very specific reason. My time, your time is so valuable. And I don't want to have no shows. And so in Calendly, they would go online and they would be able to, and I had it color coded. It was like green. It was like first time homebuyers. It'd be like new buyer. They'd click on it. They would select 30 minutes and it would be one of 3 options: over the phone, which would collect their cell phone number, in person, or virtual meeting. And I would put the virtual meeting in the middle because that's what I wanted them to do. Right now, some people have changed this to just doing virtual meetings. Right. And that's fine too. And I think that there's a lot of benefits to that. Then when they schedule, it's showing my brand, who I am. At the end, it's a link to my reviews so people can see my reviews. It's going to be sending them several different reminders. One, the first thing, it's going to add a calendar invite to their calendar of choice: iCal, Google, Office 365. If it's not on their calendar, they're not going to remember.
Right.
Even if you send them an email and a text and all that, then they get an email confirmation. Hey, super excited to connect with you. I would get a confirmation as well to my team, which would tell me that there's somebody that's booking time on my calendar. I had a 3-hour buffer, meaning that if you wanted to book for 11 a.m. today, you couldn't. The earliest would be like 2 o'clock today. That gave me time to review their notes in advance of the call, reach out to the referral partner, collect myself, be in a place where I could receive that intake call.
And we've also, just for people listening and watching, we've got a training coming up in a couple weeks in the collective. All about Calendly. Right. The ins and the outs, because a lot of people don't know what you just said. You can create a buffer because when I first started with Calendly, I was like, crap.
You're blessed.
This one's going over that one and going over this one. So
my Mondays and my Fridays had less availability than my Tuesdays through my Thursdays. Right. Then they get an email from me saying, hey, we're super excited to connect. Thank you for reaching out, blah, 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 in advance of our call. And then I would give them more information. Again, what's in it for me? If you want to start the process before our call, click here. Don't have great credit, need to check your credit score, click here. Want to be educated on this, want to get $1,000 credit at closing, watch our training series. Again, it was just like, I wanted them to know before they ever got on a call with me that I was the man, the process was serious. Like there was a conduit for them to get through successfully that felt like a controlled environment, right? Then they'd get a email and a text. And they'd get a text as well. And then an hour before the call, they'd get a reminder. Hey, I'll see you in an hour. That avoided no shows. So like that's before we even get to when you get on the phone with Shane, what do they expect? All of that is taking place. Right. Then I do my intake call and we've trained on that. That's inside the collective. It's a 30-minute call. I tell them up front, it's a 30-minute call. If they don't have time, we reschedule. I send them the link again. They can cancel inside of Calendly on their own. And we're walking them through it and using my CRM Fuel. I'm taking notes inside my CRM. Those notes are then getting transposed and sent to the agent in a quick summary: the good, the bad, the not so good. They're getting transposed in an email to my team: the good, the bad, the ugly, right? We don't send the ugly to the referral partner. We say they're credit challenged. We send to my team. They have a 400 FICO, send them off to credit repair. They're not good for 6 to 12 months, right? And then we work through that intake. Post intake, this is where that sprint really starts. The minute I get off the phone with them, I'm compiling numbers for them to look at: rates, fees. And you might say, well, you don't even know who they are. I don't need to, because Rocket Mortgage doesn't know who they are and will send them rates. Other online lenders will send them rates. Their bank will give them rates. I want them to have an understanding of where I sit versus the market, not where they sit, right? So I do that right away. I'm CCing the agent on all communications. I'm introducing them to my team, making sure they're comfortable with our borrower portal, where they're going to e-sign and do all their docs. Again, they are moving through my process. I'm not moving through their process. And I think that that's a distinction. Again, I'm not reacting, I'm controlling. And there's a difference between people that react and those that control. And we'll pause for a second, because some people might say, but yeah, Shane, but what if the agent says they don't like your process? That's okay. I'm not changing my process. Apple didn't change their phone for an Android user. They just encouraged them to try it out. And if it didn't work, they'd go back to Android. Right.
Yeah. Steve Jobs is famous for saying, if I would have given the people what they want, we just would have made a stylus.
Exactly.
Because that's what the BlackBerry had, that the iPhone, so that's huge, I think, for people to understand in this moment.
And it's in any business, you have to run your race, and people can run your race with you, but you're not running their race. And that's really important. So after the intake, our goal is to pre-approve somebody within 24 to 48 hours. Now, that's dependent on them. So if they are pre-approved, we send the letters. We do an automated evergreen video. Congrats, you've been pre-approved. What does this look like? What are some of the main questions you might have? Click the link below. Again, education. We're sending them updated rates and fees. Transparency.
Yep.
So it's speed, education, and transparency. And you focus on those three things, you're going to win. If you're the fastest, the most educational, and the most transparent, you're going to win. That becomes the most likable, right? And I think that's because I want a good deal that I'm aware of, that's really fast, that gets me what I need at the price I want.
Yeah.
And if they do that, I win. Then I'm going to put them on my nurture campaign. And that's going to vary whether they're an active prospect versus a stale prospect. And they start active because everybody reaches out wanting to buy. And some will go stale when their credit's not good enough. They can't get the home they want. That one house that they were motivated by goes away and their motivation factor changes. If they're motivated, if they're active, they're getting something from me every week. And I would be sending out a market update on Fridays. And again, because they're interested, because they're in the market, they're going to want this information. And we've talked about that on calls too, like that Friday market update, what that looks like. It's really 3 or 4 components. It's very laid out. It's the same every time. It's done through video, sent through email with a text saying, check your inbox, Kyle. I just sent you a quick update on the market. You're going to want to watch this. The Fed made a big announcement or something.
Right.
Then if they're stale, it might move to once every 2 weeks, once a month, but I am still, that person is no longer in my mind necessarily. And especially if they didn't complete the process, they didn't fulfill their application, their credit didn't work. Like they're not a pre-approval, they're a prospect. That really becomes a part of my long-term list building. Okay. So for them, then they're going to get something much less frequent because I don't want them to disengage and be like spam, right? I want them to feel like that's informative. It's not too much. And if they're struggling with bad credit, sending them a market update every week reminds them that their credit sucks. Right. And I don't want to do that, right? Yeah. And then I have 3 or 4 different tools that I'm using for those people specifically. So we use Next Level Money, which is powered by FinLocker. So for somebody who has low credit, we're going to send them that tool, which is branded to me, right? We might send them to like Home IQ if they like have a home that they're selling, they're like a move-up buyer and they need a certain value on their home. We might refer them to 3 real estate agents if they're not comfortable with the agent they're working with. But there's always something of value that we're giving to people throughout the process to keep them engaged with us. Like, and I always tell people, if you could email me a $1 bill, let's just say $1, even with inflation, I'm always going to open that email. Right. If you email me $10, I'm really going to open. In fact, I'm starring your address and that's going into my like focused folder in Gmail or whatever. Right. Yeah. And so that's pre-contract. And I'm checking in all the time. Now I'm checking in on Fridays because they're looking for homes on the weekends in person with their agents. I want to be top of mind. Mm-hmm. Then if I know they're looking on Mondays, I'm just checking back in. It might just be a text like, hey, I know you're looking. How's the market? And you can automate that through a CRM like Fuel, which is powered by Go High Level or something like that.
Yep.
And so like, I'll pause right there, but that's kind of that like pre-contract mindset and strategy that I employ.
Yeah. And guys, for those of you watching, listening, you know how fast Shane just laid all that out. So our team will create a 1-page document out of this, laying out step by step everything that he just said, so that you're like, not like, well, I lost him at step 4. He gave 8 more steps after that. I'm lost. I'm going to turn the episode off. Don't do it because it's too valuable. This is where business is won and lost. This is where, for those of you that have never figured out how to scale, you've never figured out how to get over 3 loans a month, you're just always stuck. These are the details that create clarity in your business, that allow you to expand and create team member opportunities. And so this is what you've got to get dialed in. And so that was all pre-qualification.
Pre-contract. So that's
pre-contract. Okay.
So I have leads, prospects, and pre-approvals. Those 3 groups are pre-contract. A lead is somebody I haven't connected with. Yep. A prospect is somebody I've connected with, but hasn't been qualified. And a pre-approval is somebody that was a lead that I've connected with that I've qualified. And those 3 buckets are pre-contract. And the other component to that is I also send communication specific to the referral partners. And what I'm sending to them is a tutorial on how to use their portal It's a reminder on how they can, on their own, edit the pre-approval letters, because that's when the agents are going to call you over the weekend. Hey, Kyle, I got an offer going in today. I need to update the pre-approval letter. You're always out with your family. It's always the worst possible time. And that's what irritates LOs the most on the weekends.
Yeah.
So in advance, educate agents. It doesn't work all the time, but if you can cut half of those weekend calls out just based on that, you should. So it might be a Loom video, which I know we're going to talk about next month, how to leverage video in your business. But I'll do a quick 1-minute video of how to access the agent portal, how to update the letter to make sure that it's a good process for them. So that's, again, one more thing is that kind of like pre-contract process.
So here we are, almost 19 minutes into this thing. This probably needs to be where we pause the conversation for the sake of this episode and come in next with what happens once a contract's been approved and accepted, right?
Yeah. And I'll say this, I think that would be good to do 2 more episodes of this, one like in contract and one after contract, because it's very different. You go from pre-contract, your operations and marketing, your lead follow-up and lead gen, your qualification credit expert, and you're the communication expert. Like you have to wear more hats during the process. It really depends on if you have any staff members helping you, but at a minimum, anyone who works at any company should have a processor that they're leveraging to do some of the tools. And then post-closing, it's all sales. It's no ops. So really, I look at it, the most heavy operational focus you have is in the pre-stage. It goes down when you're during the loan because you've done all the work up front. Like you're not figuring out if they qualify once they have a home in mind.
Yeah.
That's already been done. And then the post is just really that long-term list nurturing and list maintenance. And so I think those are 2 really important calls to do. I think that this is the most important season because like we've got to increase our conversion ratios.
Yep.
The average LO converts really between 15 and 30% of their leads to funded loans. And it could be, it's much lower if you're like buying online leads. But if you are a referral-based lender, 15 to 30% of your leads are going to convert to closings. And the time frame that it takes to convert is much longer now than it was when I started. It used to be they're in and out 30, 45 days and they're done. Maybe 60 when you factor in the pre-qual through funding. Now it could be 6 to 9 to 12 months. And so that process, you sprint and then you have to get into your jog. And now it's a marathon. And there's a lot that you can do during that marathon stage to make sure that you're top of mind and you're constantly sending them digital currency to keep them wanting to hear more about what you have to say and you're top of mind.
So good, bro. And guys, coming up, let me put this stat out there for you to think about until the next episode. NAR spends millions of dollars on data every year. And 2 of those data points say that 80% of buyers say they would use their lender again. And less than 20%, 19% of them actually do.
Yeah.
Shane, that's not because of a lack of the sales process and follow up. So we're going to dig into that.
I would always go back to those 3 things, right? It's all about speed, education, and transparency. And it's much more effective when you plan those 3 things out. Like a rocket that has no aimed trajectory can easily go off course.
Yeah.
And a fast speeding rocket going in the wrong direction is very dangerous.
Absolutely.
Like, and you're inches off from the moon versus outer space and a black hole.
That's
no
right.
different with education. A lack of education, the reality is they're getting educated somewhere. People don't lack the ability to gain knowledge and information. They lack the ability to get accurate knowledge and information.
Yeah.
And that's your job to do that daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, depending on what stage they're in.
That's
and then
right.
Transparency. They assume inherently that somebody is out to harm them.
Yeah.
Right. When they go to buy a car, when I go to buy a car, I'm like, nah, this guy's I think he's making more money than he's making.
Yep.
Right. And so the assumptions are things that you can counteract and get through by showing full and utter transparency. This is how much I make. If you do your process the right way, they don't care. It's when you don't do your process, you don't have speed, you don't have follow-up, you don't educate. Then they go, man, that guy's making a lot of money. And that's the typical challenge people have with real estate agents now.
Yep.
They go, I did this search online by myself. The documents were boilerplate documents that they had a typo in my name, right? Like I'm the one bringing the money to the table and they're getting 3% on $1 million home.
Yeah.
What did they do for that? Now, if the agent was more transparent about all the things they did, that's not a conflict. But I think those 3 things are the things that people need to double down on.
That's it, man. So guys, we're going to commit 2 more episodes to this stuff because that's how important it is. So let me remind you, the collective coaching is popping right now. And if you're not plugged into a community that is holding you accountable, coming alongside you, helping you grow, challenging where you have room to grow and calling you to be better, what are you doing? And so come be a part of what we're doing. You can go to thecollectivecoaching.com. We want you in our family. And so thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll see you back next week with another episode. Bye, everybody. We got a whole training coming up about it.
Yeah, and an entire pre-qual over the phone. As I'm on the phone with them, I'm